There is one line in professional golf right now that means two completely different things. At number 70 in the FedEx Cup standings sits Jackson Koivun, 21 years old, who just won the 3M Open in only his third professional start. 4 places below him sits Jason Day, 38 years old, a former world number 1, a major champion, and a 13-time winner on the Professional Golfers Association Tour. Jackson Koivun is on that line because he is winning. Jason Day is near that line because his back will not let him play. The same cut line that is launching one career is the line that may end another player's season in a matter of days. On Monday, July 27, Jason Day withdrew from the Rocket Classic at Detroit Golf Club. The withdrawal was reported by Adam Schupak of Golf Week, and the reason was the same one that has followed Jason Day all summer, a lingering back injury. It was the second consecutive week that he pulled out of a Professional Golfers Association Tour event following his withdrawal from the 3M Open in Minnesota the week before. The detail that matters most about these two withdrawals is the timing of them. Neither happened during a round. Jason Day never reached the first tee in either week. He committed to the events and then he removed himself before competition began. A player who withdraws in the middle of a round has at least started. Jason Day did not get that far twice in 7 days. Hayden Springer was added to the Rocket Classic field in his place. Hayden Springer received the news while he was competing in Monday's qualifier at the Orchards Golf Club in Washington Township. One player's injury created another player's opportunity, and the message arrived while that second player was still trying to earn his way in through a different door. A week earlier, Charlie Hoffman had been the player who replaced Jason Day at the 3M Open. The pattern behind these two withdrawals goes back to last month. Jason Day withdrew during the first round of the United States Open Championship at Shinnecock Hills. He started on the back 9 and shot 6 over 41, which included 6 bogeys in a row. He made par at his final hole, the first, and was then carted back to the clubhouse with his caddy. He reached for his back while hitting his final tee shot of the championship. That withdrawal marked the 12th time in his career that Jason Day has quit during a tournament. The sequence since then is short and it is not encouraging. Withdrawal at the United States Open Championship. A tied 55th finish at the Travelers Championship, a missed cut at the Open Championship. Withdrawal at the 3M Open. Withdrawal at the Rocket Classic. He did try to come back and quickly. 1 week after Shinnecock Hills, Jason Day teed it up at the Travelers Championship in Connecticut. He completed all 4 rounds there, which was a result in itself given how the previous week had ended. He finished tied for 55th, and he did not appear to be fully healthy at any point during the week. From there, he traveled to Royal Birkdale for the Open Championship, the 3rd major of his season. He missed the cut. That result raised the obvious question of whether his back had recovered enough to handle 4 competitive rounds at that level, and the 2 withdrawals that followed answered it. Here is the number that frames the whole summer for Jason Day. He has played only 8 full competitive rounds of golf since the middle of May. Not 8 tournaments, 8 rounds. For a player who was once ranked first in the official World Golf Ranking, that figure describes a season that has been interrupted rather than played. Each attempt to return has produced less than the one before it. 4 rounds at the Travelers Championship, 2 rounds at the Open Championship, 0 rounds at the 3M Open, 0 rounds at the Rocket Classic. There is a fair question in that progression, and it is one that anyone who has followed his career will recognize. Did competing at the Travelers Championship and the Open Championship cost him the recovery time his back actually required? Now to the arithmetic, because the arithmetic is what makes this withdrawal different from an ordinary one in July. Jason Day enters this week at number 74 in the FedEx Cup standings. When he pulled out of the Rocket Classic, there were 2 events remaining in the regular season. With the Rocket Classic now gone, he has won the Wyndham Championship next week. Only the top 70 players in the FedEx Cup standings after the Wyndham Championship advance to the playoffs. Those players qualify for the FedEx St. Jude Championship, and they also lock up full Professional Golfers Association Tour status for next season. That second part carries as much weight as the first. This is not only a question of whether Jason Day plays in August. It is a question of what his access to the tour looks like next year. There is a further complication in the standings. Jason Day sat at number 72 before the 3M Open. After withdrawing from that event, he dropped 2 places to number 74. That is how the system works at this time of year. A player who does not compete does not simply hold his position, because everyone around him is still earning points. Standing still moves you backward, so the situation is straightforward and it is difficult. One tournament, one field, one chance to move at least 4 positions with a back that has prevented him from starting 2 consecutive events. If his back does not cooperate at the Wyndham Championship, or if it limits him once he is there, his season ends before the playoffs begin. This would not be a season lost to poor golf. This would be a season lost to an injury. To understand why this particular setback carries weight, it helps to look at the full record. Jason Day is a 13-time winner on the Professional Golfers Association Tour. He won the 2015 Professional Golfers Association Championship, and that year he climbed to number 1 in the official world golf ranking. He won 10 times between 2014 and 2018. That is the peak of his career, and it is a peak that very few players in his generation reached. Alongside that record sits a long medical history. The Australian has dealt with chronic back problems, neck injuries, vertigo, and a range of other health concerns across his career. In 2023, describing the vertigo, Jason Day said the episodes would arrive for a few holes and then ease off, and that he could keep going through them. In his words, "I feel kind of dizzy and nauseous, but I can get through this." That description does more to explain his career than any injury list, because it shows a player who has spent years calculating how much discomfort he can absorb and still compete. Back issues began to affect his results after 2018. The wins stopped. He also spoke about the reset that period required, saying, "I just needed to take some time off," and describing a change in how he approached his preparation and his work at the golf course. That reset produced results. Jason Day ended a lengthy winless run in 2023 by claiming the Byron Nelson title. He rebuilt his position in the world rankings. He is currently ranked 59th in the world. The resurgence was real, which is precisely why the current situation carries the weight that it does. This is not a player fading out of relevance. This is a player who came back once and is now trying to hold his position while his back gives way again. There is another part of this story that has received less attention than the injury, and it comes directly from Jason Day himself. In June, he was asked about his form, and he made clear that his equipment was not the problem. He said his average results had nothing to do with the clubs. What he described instead was a loss of trust in his own ball striking. He said, "I'm playing to miss a shot instead of playing to a target," explaining that he did not know what the ball was going to do once it came off the club face. He also gave his own diagnosis of how his tournaments were unfolding. He said that in a typical week he would produce 3 decent rounds and 1 bad round that would remove him from contention. On the difficulty of sitting with that pattern, he said, "It's really hard to be patient right now." He added that he believed he would eventually get beyond it. Those 2 threads belong together rather than apart. A player managing a back injury cannot practice freely, cannot rehearse a swing at full speed, and cannot rely on the same feel from week to week. The physical problem and the confidence problem are connected. Jason Day described a swing he could not predict in June, and by late July he was withdrawing from tournaments before they started. While all of this unfolded, the Rocket Classic went ahead without him, and this year that carries additional significance. This is the 8th and final edition of the Rocket Classic. The tournament that has been played at Detroit Golf Club since 2019 is holding its last event, and one of the most recognizable players on tour is not in the field for it. There is also a smaller consequence of his absence that golf fans had been anticipating. Jason Day is sponsored by Malbon Golf, a clothing company known for creating tournament-specific outfits. Detroit has served as one of the brand's showcase events, and another distinctive look had been expected. With the withdrawal, that collaboration will not appear. His commitment to Detroit had an additional element to it. Jason Day was among the later commitments into the Rocket Classic, and he announced it jointly with the content creator and fellow Australian Ryan Ruffles, who works with him on the Lads page on YouTube. Ryan Ruffles received a sponsor's exemption into the event. The two were set to be in Detroit together. Jason Day was not the only withdrawal from this field. On Sunday, Maverick McNeely, ranked number 42 in the world, withdrew. On Saturday, Keith Mitchell, ranked number 71, pulled out. Dan Brown also withdrew. Their spots went to Lanto Griffin, Matt Kuchar, and Zach Blair. Ben Coles was added to the field on Monday as well, on the strength of 2 top 10 finishes in the previous month, including a 9th-place result at the 3M Open. One player turned down the opportunity. Blades Brown, 19 years old, could have taken a place in the Rocket Classic but declined it to play the Korn Ferry Tour event in Utah instead, because his points position on that tour has him well placed for a Professional Golfers Association Tour card next season. The full Rocket Classic field numbers 147 players. Even without Jason Day, the field remains deep. Xander Schauffele, Patrick Cantlay, Jordan Spieth, Hideki Matsuyama, Ricky Fowler, Cameron Young, Russell Henley, Wyndham Clark, and Siwoo Kim are all in Detroit. Rory McIlroy and Scottie Scheffler are not playing this week. Jason Day is also not the only established name whose season is now resting on the Wyndham Championship. The bubble at number 70 is crowded. Keegan Bradley sits at number 76 in the FedEx Cup standings. The former United States Ryder Cup captain has missed only 4 cuts this season, but he has yet to record a top 10 finish on the Professional Golfers Association Tour. He is qualified for the last 3 editions of the Tour Championship, and that run is now at risk. Tony Finau sits at number 87. He is now outside the top 100 of the official World Golf Ranking, and he did not qualify for a single major championship in 2026. Brooks Koepka is another name in this group. He withdrew from the Rocket Classic for personal reasons, which means he now needs a strong result at the Wyndham Championship to advance to the playoffs. Then there is Jackson Koivun exactly on the cut line at number 70. He won the 3M Open last Sunday in only his 3rd start as a professional. That victory came in his 13th career start on the Professional Golfers Association Tour, which places him ahead of Scottie Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Tiger Woods, Jon Rahm, and Bryson DeChambeau in terms of how quickly he reached his first tour win. The win moved him sharply up the official World Golf Ranking. And there is already discussion about whether the 21-year-old could earn a place in the United States President's Cup squad. That is the contrast at the center of this week. The same cut line that might close out the season of a former world number 1 is the line that a 21-year-old has just crossed on his way up. Which brings everything back to one question. Can the back of Jason Day give him 4 rounds at the Wyndham Championship? If it can, and if the result is good enough to move him inside the top 70, his season continues at the FedEx St. Jude Championship from August 13 to August 16. From there, the field is trimmed to 50 players for the BMW Championship the following week. And then comes the season finale, the Tour Championship at East Lake, with a prize fund of $40 million. If it cannot, then the season of Jason Day ends at number 74 or somewhere close to it, with his full tour status for next season unresolved, after a year that began with a joint runner-up finish at the American Express, included a tied 12th at the Masters in April and a tied 38th finish in May, and then stopped at Shinnecock Hills in June. Jason Day has spent a decade proving that he can come back from physical setbacks. This time, he has 7 days to do it. So here is the question for you. Does Jason Day find a way into the top 70 at the Wyndham Championship, or does the injury decide his season for him? Leave your prediction in the comments.